Norm Macdonald says the idiot believes that the battle's between good and evil. The cynic believes that everybody's evil. And what the truth is that the battle's always been between good and good. And that's deception, because the truth is we are all possessed of a basket of beliefs, some of which cross over, some of which are radical, and none of which are doctrinaire. And so we have to keep reminding people that there's no reason to be scared of each other, that we are connected.
What does it mean to show up as a mentally strong woman? To be brave, especially in kind of conflict and unrest. Our next interviewee actually does that and brings people in the room with opposite beliefs and begins that dialogue. And she shares her journey of mental strength through that and how she got here.
I'm Sandra Brownrigg, and I'm with Braver Angels. And our mission is to inspire and equip Americans to practice courageous citizenship across political differences through skill building, convening, and collaboration.
Whew. All right,
Yeah.
so we're going to dive into what that actually means and how you got here. But that's really important right now. I mean, when we look at the political climate, it's even brave for you to be in this space to say, we are willing to talk about being brave in this kind of political climate. Tell us what that means to Braver Angels.
So in Braver Angels, the idea of courageous citizenship and bravery is, it's that bridge that connects us. So right now it feels very much like there's this group of people on the left, and if one of them has a basket of beliefs, they all have that basket of beliefs. And those are scary. And then there's this group of people on the right, and if one of them has one belief, they have all the beliefs, and they're scary. So each group is scared of the other, and that's deception, because the truth is we are all possessed of a basket of beliefs, some of which cross over, some of which are radical, and none of which are doctrinaire. And so we have to keep reminding people that there's no reason to be scared of each other, that we are connected. And the way our CEO, Maury Giles, puts it is, he says, you know, the opposite of cowardice is what?
Bravery.
Recklessness.
The opposite of coward?
Cowardice is recklessness.
Oh, okay.
So heedless disregard, or else nervous hesitancy. Courage is in the middle, where you think about what you're doing, you're rational, and you step into that space to help create that bridge. So that's bravery.
Okay. And how did you get into this, what I would think is a little bit of an uncomfortable space? Which it's brave to step into an uncomfortable space, but how did you get into this?
Well, my son is now 27. I volunteered in the school district in Douglas County, Colorado for well over a decade, and I kept going up in leadership positions. And as that was happening, he graduated in 2016, the political environment was getting worse and worse. And those politics affected the schools, the teachers, the students, and the district itself, to the point where the parents wouldn't talk to each other. The community became so divided. And that was hurting something that mattered very much to me. Education matters even more, it'd be children. And so for my last volunteer opportunity, I chaired something where we assessed the feasibility of funding. And the answer was there's no way to pass funding, not because the district didn't need it, and not because there wasn't a substantial portion of the community that supported it, but because these people wouldn't work with these people to explain the need to the people who didn't have children in the district. And so you didn't have the community connection. And so I went looking for a group that was addressing that particular problem, because the problem made no sense to me. And I found Braver Angels.
Okay. And we talked a little bit before we got on camera about just kind of being a woman in this space of, motherhood and wanting to do what's right for the community and agency. How does mental strength show up for you in this space now, and then we'll talk about like maybe some things in the past.
Okay. How does mental strength show up in this space of political division now?
Mm-hmm.
Or
the work that you're doing, like the passion behind the work.
So it's
you know me, I want to go deep in there. It's great what you're doing.
Right. The right answer for me personally
mm-hmm.
is a faith-based answer. So
okay.
I am a woman of faith. I'm Episcopalian, and so the Episcopalian faith is one that is based on curiosity and the right to say, hey, I don't get this, which is what drew me to it. When I was growing up, my dad said we could choose our religion.
Okay.
So when I was 13, I chose this faith, and it's been part of me ever since. And the reason that matters is because as a woman, I believe I am made of unconditional love. And so I know that the first commandment is to love God with all my heart, which is hard enough because I'm always wanting to say, hey, I have a question. I don't get why you're doing this, why this pain is here, right? And then the second one is love your neighbor as yourself, which requires you to love your neighbor and to love yourself. So we can spend our whole lives just on those three things because that's a big enough problem as it is.
Yeah.
And as a woman, I am a life giver, which means that I am a conduit for unconditional love. And so it is my purpose in life, in my head, which is a magical place, to spread that love. And that is an act of courage in a cynical world.
Yeah.
So Norm Macdonald says, the idiot believes that the battle's between good and evil. The cynic believes that everybody's evil. And what the truth is that the battle's always been between good and good. And so as a woman, with an understanding of how to communicate maybe a little bit better than many men, my job is to say, hey, I get what your good is, and I get what your good is. Now let's see where they align, and then let's talk about the scratchy parts. And I think that's a uniquely female ability.
Yeah.
So
well, and it really aligns with how I define mental strength, because I think the world often has a masculine view of mental strength, like push through, grit, combining it with physical, exercise, and David Goggins and these people who are the poster children for mental strength. But mine is about insight. And do you know why you're feeling the way you're feeling? Do you know how to, actually process those things and be stronger because of it?
Right.
That old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, is not true.
No.
Right? There's many people in psych hospitals, in jails, homeless on the street that would disagree, right? But I love how you brought in the word love. So my daughter, that was her word. And she just, everything about her was about love, to a complete stranger, to me. But it is what makes us distinctly different, like that ability to love. And you're bringing that into a space that nobody really taught. And back to a faith of like, what does it really mean to love your neighbor? Not just the neighbor on the same political party, but all your neighbors, not the ones of the same race or ethnicity or whatever the disparity or injustice that people are living with, right? There's all kinds of injustices that, but we're called to love them all.
Whatever
right?
the othering is.
Right.
The human nature is, whenever you have a faith, well, who's in and who's out? Whenever you have a political belief, who's in and who's out? So fragmentation is the enemy. It's not the beliefs of being liberal or conservative. It is the division.
Yeah.
And once you recognize that, the whole kind of perception that we are so polarized, it melts away, and we're just back to who we've always been, where we have some very vivid and principled and deep disagreements. Yeah. But we are not sitting on the edges like this.
Yeah. Well, and another thing that we actually don't do well as women is love ourselves.
Right.
So because you stopped when you said that, right? Like you were like, we have to love ourselves and
Yes.
others. When did that come up for you of very distinctly, like, this is my calling to talk about this?
So, again, we're going further back because my undergrad's in psychology.
Okay.
And I have an MBA, so I spent the first 6 years after college trying to save the world. My parents pointed out that they did not sign up to finance that journey, and perhaps I should do something practical with my life. And so I got an MBA, I went into technology, but I still had that heart for what my purpose was. And so what happens as far as the self-love is I was so self-critical throughout my 20s and 30s. Not pretty enough, not thin enough, not ambitious enough, not focused enough. And then it's like, wait a minute, I am again supposed to love my neighbor as myself. Well, the fundamental there is, why am I not appreciating myself? And then once you do that, and I think you know this, once then you see the fineness in other people, and you habituate yourself, and I feel like that's a skill. You habituate yourself to call to the fineness, and then the fineness responds, and then your life becomes not easy, because nobody's life is easy, but so much better than it was back when you were looking for the warts in other people.
Right, right.
So that was that.
Yeah, and I think what we talk about really aligns well, and people want to, when they're giving, dropping wisdom like that, they like to know where it comes from. So my next question, I want to go a little deeper of, like, what time in your life do you feel like you wish you had more mental strength?
That happens, it still happens, right?
It's a journey.
It is a journey. In some parts of that journey, you're traveling on the floor, splayed out in grief. And so that for me would be in 2005, I lost a child. I lost my baby. And so I was pregnant. It was a late-term miscarriage, and we had just moved here and in Colorado, and so we were trying to get settled, and my best friend was dying in Texas, so there was a whole lot going on. And I did not have the capacity for self-care. I did not have the capacity for processing anything that was going on. So that was when I wished I had more mental strength, and I wished I had more capacity. My son was 7, and he was a little bereft there for a while. So I was insufficient. But again.
And how much time there's a lot of people that follow me who have lost a child, right? How much time did it take for you to begin to process, to begin to shift, to begin to understand grief?
I think that was a period of about 2 years.
Okay.
Maybe longer, but it started with a purpose-driven. It was like, oh, this was a chromosomal abnormality. Obviously, my job is to go make that not happen anymore. I'm going to go solve this problem. Well, that actually is not possible. I'm not a doctor, and then it was the shift of, again, you come back to loving God. I don't understand why these things happen, but if your whole basis for life is unconditional love, then my love for God also has to be unconditional. It's not transactional. So,
which is hard as a monk, because I mean, let's just be real. Like, when you're in that, I was angry at God. I mean, I've had to go like full circle, right?
Yes.
That just be real with that. Like, I think people are scared to question their faith. They're scared to ask those questions, or they just get angry and say, I don't believe in God anymore, or
he didn't do this thing that I expected him to do, and I had not bargained because I was 44, so I knew that it was a high-risk pregnancy.
Okay.
So that was part of it. I was just delighted that we had the chance, and then yes, I was angry. And the peace came from my grandmother, and I think this is again women-centric, from my mother, from my son, though, from my maternal love, and from the same understanding when I left the corporate world in 2001, I realized that life is not about my external labels. So I don't need to be a tech executive. I don't need to be easy to define by other people. I need to live this mosaic of a life that is actually what I feel is right for me. And so through that, and through sitting in my new church and just crying, I would go to church on Sundays and cry. And who cares?
Cry.
Exactly. The deacon eventually came up and said, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I actually, once I leave here I am, but for an hour a week I could go cry in church. And I did. And eventually it went away. It took as long as it took.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I talk about kind of untangling the grief with that spiritual conflict, with maybe negative talk that, you know, we are victim to. You know, women are often like talking negatively about themselves, like, you know, I should have been a better mother, I should have done this, or I should have done that. And just really untangling those things so that they don't get enmeshed with the grief. Because grief we're allowed to feel forever, right? Do you like still honor the potential birthday or the death date, or like, you know, is there a part of you that still does some of that?
Yeah, and if we're eternal, then that being is also eternal and part of me and part of my husband, and you know, that's just a connection you have, and it's sacred. So yeah, you do.
So connection is a word you've used at least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
You like that word?
I like that word a lot.
Yeah.
I think so the purpose, back to the Braver Angels, the purpose of what we do is connecting people. And it's not connecting people to be nice to each other. It's not connecting people to be to convince each other or persuade each other. It is to better understand each other. And so with Braver Angels, we're curious to understand. Your life experiences are so profoundly different from mine. So why do you think the way you do? And what is it that you think? Because I want to understand that.
Yeah.
And when you approach someone grounded in respect to start with, then those conversations flow.
So tell us about these. You have community events where you get people with opposite opinions in the same room to make discussions?
We do.
I'm feeling uncomfortable and I'm not even in the room.
Well, I'm a debate chair, so what you're describing is our debates. And we have skills building, and this is all grounded in research and science. So one of our founders is a family therapist. So a lot of our skills are grounded in family therapy. But then we have debates. So last summer here in Colorado Springs, we had a debate. We had 3 debates, one of which was on the role of parents and teachers and schools in children's gender identity. One was on gun safety and gun rights, and one was on freedom of religion and freedom from religion. Yeah. Which is, you know, life is boring if you don't get right into there and get into the deep end of the pool. So we had these, and we had people come from each side, and the most poignant moment for me was when someone who was a lifelong and devout Catholic had a conversation with someone who was non-binary and someone who was gay, and it became clear that this was an existential question for them both, because the Catholics said, I'm afraid that if we don't honor traditional family structures, that civilization itself will crumble.
So a fear.
Right? And the other one said, I'm afraid that if you don't acknowledge my way of moving through life, then I'm invisible and I don't exist. And so there is that visceral level. So if you can build the trust in that container in that short period of time where people will share things like that, it is powerful and life-changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's not politics. When you cut through the politic veneer, this is actually about values. It's about our lives.
And people, and connection.
And how we interact, how we move through the world.
Yeah, and that we all want love.
Yes.
And women specifically do like that connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that we're all afraid of rejection. A lot of the political beliefs, when you drill down on why people don't want to engage with people on the opposite side, some of it, a surprising amount, is because they're afraid of being wrong. And it's like, so shame, but who cares? I was wrong this morning. I'll be wrong before I leave the building. You know, once you get past that, life is more fun.
Yeah.
You know, don't worry about that. And that's what Braver Angels provides. It provides that container for respectful dialogue where you're not worried about the other person mocking or shaming or you know, diminishing you in any way. You are sufficient.
That is definitely brave. And I love the Braver Angels and what you're doing for people. And I love that I personally show up like that, right? I can see both sides. I resonate. I feel them. But to get them, you know, I have people who I have relationship with that believe this way, relationship with that believe this way, but I don't typically invite them to my house at the same time.
And I have my entire life. So I was brave before Braver Angels came along, because I always thought it was so interesting to put all these people in a room and see what would happen. And it never went wrong because people would talk to each other. And that, when we stop talking to each other, violence ensues. And so that's when you should be afraid, is when the dialogue ceases. The next step is not good. So, you know, the goal,
we're witnessing some of that.
We are. We are. And you're also witnessing the idea that because of how polarized the public dialogue is, you get different candidates for office than you would get if it was still an honored norm to do courageous citizenship, to serve, public service. You get ambition, maybe a touch of narcissism, and I'm not calling anybody out in particular. I'm just saying, in order to survive politics, you have to have that thick skin and self-interest. I would not run for office. I had no desire to expose my family to that stew. So that's kind of the other part, is change the dynamic, you change governance.
Tell us about your foundational years, like your childhood, and was mental strength ever taught? Did you just witness it and learn it yourself? How did growing up impact you?
Well, my mother was Mary Poppins. It still is. She's practically perfect in every way. She taught me you needed to learn the rules before you could break the rules. So, you know, I did. I learned the rules. But she had a dancing school. And so we, you know, every day I'd go teach ballet, tap, jazz, and gymnastics with her. So wonderful foundation. And we were in the South, and it was during desegregation. And so I also witnessed firsthand some of the parents, she told me later, would call and say, how many African American children are there in my child's class? And my mother would say, I have no idea. And I said, did you lose students for that? She said, I didn't lose anybody that I would have wanted to have. And I would love to have the student.
So you learned from an early age, you know, to respect all people.
Well, it was never a question. And the other thing that she taught me was, if they showed up for class, she taught them. So if they couldn't afford, didn't matter. So everybody needed to have dance. They needed to have art in their lives. So she was my role model, and she was politically involved. And someday, I'm in my 60s, but I'm telling you, Mother, you know, by the time I'm 85, maybe I'll get there. And then my father was equally wonderful, but in a different way. So to tell you a story about him, when I was in my early 20s, I lived with my best friend, and she was gone one night. I went to sleep, and I must have left the door unlocked because I woke up, and there was a guy standing over my bed, and I could smell beer. And I said, who the hell are you? And I jumped up and chased him out on the porch. And then I'm like, well, what am I going to do with him if I catch him? Not wearing a lot of clothes. So I run back in, and I call the police, and then I call my dad. And it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I said, Dad, you know, this guy came into my room, and it was scary. And he said, and I thought, oh, I'm going to get to skip work. Oh, this is going to be drama. And he goes, did you call the police? And I said, yes. And he said, well, that sounds awful. Let me know what happens. And he hung up on me. And I got dressed, I talked to the police, I went to work, and I thought, yeah, I am competent. My father trusts me. You know? And so you had that reasoned, calm aspect, and then you had really a noble mom. So I was very lucky. Still am, because they're still around.
Yeah. What do you think the culture misunderstands about mental strength and love and civility and the things that we're talking about?
They don't understand that it's a choice. They don't understand that it's a skill. They don't understand that you need to practice it. They don't understand.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm teaching. Keep going, keep going.
Because by the time you get to be my age, you've had trauma and you've had unearned soul scars, right? And I could choose to get up and let that grief or that insufficiency just undermine everything about me. But if I get up every morning and I am full of love and I go out and I see the fineness in everybody else, and then they notice that I see them and then they see me, again, I feel so superficial in a way because I skate through life on that. But it also has this ripple effect that is amazing. So when you are 63 like me and you look at your wealth, my wealth is my friends, and these people who have come into my life are just amazing and inspiring and challenging, and that's what I think. It's a skill, it's a choice, it pays dividends. Oh, and the last part is the person you are today is not, you're not investing in you today, you're investing in you 5, 10, 20 years down the road. So if you're thinking about having children and you're in your 20s, don't think about what that's doing from 20 to 25. Whatever choice you make is fine, but think about what that's going to do in your 30s or your 40s or your 60s. That emotional investment is just as important as any financial investment, and you don't really look at that. So,
yeah, especially in your 20s and 30s. You're just grinding. You're going for it.
Even middle age. I'm so lucky to have my parents, and I keep hearing people say, oh, I wish I would have. Whatever that I wish I would have, go do it now. Just, don't wait, because why would you wish you would have?
Right.
So
just do it.
Just do it. As much as you can. Every day there should be one thing you cross off your just do it list at least.
Yeah.
Don't wait.
All right, last question.
Yes.
What are you currently learning? Because remember, we talked, this is all a journey. We don't have it all together, right? What are you currently learning?
I'm currently learning to actually finish what I start. Because I am a writer. I have written my entire life. I hear words in my head like music, and I have never written a book. And I need to write that book, whatever it is. So I'm working on that. And then I'm also learning, you have all of these online college courses. I take that stuff all the time. This is the best era ever to be alive because there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
There's no excuse.
And we have access to everything.
Everything. Yeah. Whatever you're interested in. Oh, I'm interested in art. Okay, I'm going to go find something, go tour a museum virtually, whatever it is. But still learning that. Still learning to control my temper. Still learning that the killing verbal / the really, really tempting is almost always the marginal cost outweighs the marginal benefit. And then again, still learning forgiveness. Forgive myself, forgive others.
Yeah, we didn't touch on that, but forgiving yourself is
that
important.
First,
that's part of that self-love, right?
Yeah.
We forgive our kids all the time because we love them, but usually love our kids more than we love ourselves.
It all starts with forgiveness. Well, and we didn't talk about redemption. It all starts. So again, if your faith is Christian, the salvation of the world is redemption, and so you have to forgive in order to be redeemed. And that's just, once you crack that nut, life is very vivid and wonderful, despite all of the sadness.
Yeah.
Even that part of it is what you process, forgive, and learn from.
All of the sadness, yeah. And be okay with it.
And be okay with it. And
One of the
then
things
pass those rules on to other people, those lessons to other people.
I talk about, joy and pain can coexist. And we always think, oh, I'm in so much pain, I can't find joy. But you can have both.
Yes.
You don't have to say, I don't have pain.
Yeah. Loss
So,
is inevitable. I mean, so that pain is inevitable. But so is joy if you look for it.
yeah.
And isn't it better? I mean, if you're going to have pain, maybe have a side of joy.
Yeah.
It's like steak and wine. You may as well have a glass of wine with that steak if you're able.
So if you live local, is Braver Angels anywhere else or just Colorado Springs?
Braver Angels is the largest volunteer-led organization in this space in the nation.
Okay. So if people are listening from other cities, they can look up Braver Angels and there might be events in their location.
Yep, go to braverangels.org. We have alliances in every state. I'm actually going to help with a Braver Golf event in Alabama, which is where I'm from, in March.
Okay.
Our CEO is going to be here in Colorado Springs on March 30th with a partner of ours, Reclaiming Civility.
Yeah, definitely invite us to all of those things.
Will
I'm
do.
looking forward to it.
Will do.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. B. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner with over 25 years of clinical experience, but as you've heard, I've actually had my own grief and trauma. I'd love for you to watch the documentary, which could come up next, but also I teach on mental strength. I not only have the professional credentials for that, but I've lived it and I continue to live it. So click the link in the description to learn about the Mentally Strong Method.